a lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Yes, people. You know what time it is. You know what it is. It's G, and we're back in the building. Decided that, you know, we got to do LFC Newsroom, and we had quite a bit to unpack, to be honest with you. So I thought, you know what, let's just chop it up in a quick video for you guys instead of a reel. As I always like to say, guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We are on the road to 400 subscribers, so please make sure you're hitting that subscribe if you haven't already, man. I know there's some of you watching it who haven't subscribed, so please, if you could do me that favor. So obviously this is the LFC Newsroom, so we're just going to kind of quickly get through some of the news that's been going on in and around Liverpool Football Club over the last few days. Obviously we've got some big ones, we've got some small ones. There's only really one place to actually start, so you know what it is. We have to start here. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you head over to the Jerry James Show, where myself and Jerry, we obviously spoke on this last night, you know, in regards to the whole Jude Bellingham situation. David Ornstein obviously put this out. Apparently, as things stand, it looks increasingly unlikely Liverpool will sign Jude Bellingham this summer. Something to do with the price. We didn't know that, apparently. Something to do with the financial power of our rivals. We also didn't know that. The pursuit, in David Ornstein's words, again, this is just, I guess, something that he's been told. So again, more opinionated than anything. The pursuit for Jude Bellingham is definitely not off. I think we got to stress that. Whether we get him, you know, again, like I said, head over to the Jerry James Show to find out my opinion on it in regards to whether we should even sign him and things like that. Whether we get him or not, who knows? At the end of the day, I don't trust any of these journalists, because more often than not, they do actually get it wrong, to be honest with you, especially when it comes to Liverpool Football Club, because of the way that Liverpool do their business, which is so like in secret 007 code. You know, it's very rare that people do find out, you know, the correct information. So again, take all of this. David Ornstein is a very respected journalist, so I don't want to say take it with a pinch of salt, because there's probably some level of truth in there. And I'm not saying that this isn't actually true, because it could be. But at the same time, we do have to remember the way that Liverpool do business. This might just be a negotiation tactic, potentially. Who knows? I'm not going to, you know, dibble and dabble in that, you know, too tough. But, you know, it's just something to potentially think about. Moving on. Obviously looking at some more transfer news. Apparently this is posted out by Anything Liverpool, retweeted by Jacobs Ben. Vardial and Kim Min Jae of Napoli are both apparently on Liverpool's list of targets for this summer, with the former Vardial being tracked extensively in recent months. Definitely a player, both of them, to be honest with you, definitely players that I think could improve Liverpool. Again, availability being the best ability. You know, both players haven't got too much of a track record, I would think, in regards to injuries and things like that. So I would definitely be a lot more comfortable having them in our team, even if you're going to have them as backup, because I doubt Klopp is going to change to a back three, even though I think that would be best served. But I don't think he's going to do that. And I think where you've got Joe Gomez and Joel Matip, two players who are constantly injured, very unreliable, and even when they do come back, have shown this season, but even in previous seasons, that they're Matip probably more so. Matip has shown probably a bit more about him, but Joe Gomez, in my opinion, hasn't been able to get back to that level that we saw in that title-winning season. So, you know, we'll wait on that. Next up, obviously taking a look here, Fabrizio Romano's obviously put out news about Mason Mount. Tony Mount remains Mason Mount's official agent. He has now partnered with Neil Fewings, the Roof Group, to help with talks, as there has been no agreement with Chelsea on a new deal. Mount could leave in the summer if an agreement won't be reached. Liverpool are one of the clubs who remain interested. Again, listen to my previous thoughts in regards to Mason Mount. Do I want him at the club? No. Do I see Liverpool signing him? Potentially, yes. Does seem like the type of deal that Liverpool might try and do, if I'm being totally honest with you. So again, it's one of those ones, if I'm being totally honest, you know, he's not a rubbish player. I don't want to discredit him like that, but he's just not my type of player. But again, my type of player and Jurgen Klopp's type of players are two different types of players, two different systems, two different styles. So, you know, we'd have to just wait on that and see. Next up, we're looking at Matheus Nunes. Apparently, he does look like he's been highly regarded by Liverpool. Apparently, he is an option. They like the age, they like the profile, and they feel that he has got that potential to be able to fit into this squad. He's obviously a name that we've spoken about for the last this season a lot. At the beginning of this season, throughout the entire summer. Before he joined Wolves, it did look like Liverpool were apparently in for him. They were interested in him. He then joined Wolves, which was a little bit confusing, to be honest with you. And then, you know, this season, he hasn't really been playing that much, if I'm being totally honest. I don't know if that's just down to the managers who've been in charge, you know, but seems to always play against Liverpool, come on against Liverpool, and it always seems to play pretty decently, which is always funny, coincidentally. But, you know, when I look at someone like a Matheus Nunes, I think he's a very tidy player. I think his skill set, I think Jurgen Klopp would ruin it, if I'm being totally honest with you. So a player I would like to see, I wouldn't mind him as a squad rotation type of player, but I just think that if you're coming into a Liverpool team with the way that Jurgen Klopp likes to set up, I just think that it's not going to end in the way, you know, that you would potentially want it to. But, you know, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. So now taking a look at some of the outgoings that potentially might happen. Liverpool are yet to make a decision on the futures of Fabio Carvalho and Kelleher, with a verdict expected to be made in the weeks following the conclusion of this year's campaign. Two players who are at kind of different different roads, if I'm being honest with you, with their time at Liverpool. Obviously, Carvalho only joining, you know, in the beginning of this season. A player who was looking like he was on the up and up, and you know, it is quite soul destroying for these youngsters at times, I feel, when your development is being stalled at a football club. Doesn't matter how big the football club is, you know, regardless of anything. If you're a player who's been playing quite frequently, you've then moved on to a new club, you know, the manager's obviously giving you some level of assurances, you know, within the team. Obviously, it's then down to you to be able to perform. If you don't perform, then of course you're going to be put out of the team. But I don't think he's really been given a chance. Now that might change after the international break, who knows? But I look at someone like a Fabio Carvalho and I think to myself, it's a little bit techie with him, man. It's a little bit techie. I don't really feel that he's been given, you know, he hasn't really been given the chance, to be honest with you, if I'm being totally honest. I think he's been kind of left there to his devices, if I'm being totally honest. And I just think if Klopp isn't going to give him that chance, or isn't going to, you know, try and bed him into his actual position that we signed him as, you're going to need to let the guy go out on loan, just play some football, just to kind of keep the rhythm going, because, you know, he's at a crucial point in his career, in my opinion, in terms of where he may or may not go. You don't want to head down the Curtis Jones route where you're now 21, you know, 22, whatever, and it's just nothing at this present moment in time. You don't fit into anything that you do at the football club, you know, and you're kind of a waste of space, if I'm being totally honest, a bit like Curtis Jones. So, you know, got to wait and see. And with Kelleher, I think Kelleher obviously a bit different. Second goalkeeper, we already know what the position's like with goalkeepers, especially when you've got such a good one in front of you. Game time is obviously going to be limited, but he is a good goalkeeper, very, very good goalkeeper. I do think he deserves to play, you know, potentially for a different side. Wouldn't be too sad if he left. I think he would deserve the move, to be honest with you. And I think most Liverpool fans kind of think that anyway. And much as you want to have two good goalkeepers at your club, of course you do. But you understand the point of view of the second goalkeeper when they feel that, especially when they're quite young, like Kelleher is, he's got so much of his career left. You know, this isn't a guy who's 38 or 36, or even just in his 30s, and you're saying he's still a good goalkeeper, because then he might look at the situation a lot more differently. But when you're in this position whereby you're still quite young and you still want to actually have a career, best thing for you to do is leave. And, you know, he goes with the grace, to be honest, of myself anyway. I don't know about anyone else, and I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I would totally understand if he did decide that he wanted to leave. Now, taking a look here, Liverpool are hopeful Luis Diaz will return to full team training next week as they begin their preparations for the Premier League run-in. Obviously, Diaz has obviously been out since before the World Cup, came back, then picked up another injury, which is quite typical here at Liverpool, to be honest with you. But, you know, he's a player who I think that it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that kind of pans out, because I think that when it does come to someone like Luis Diaz, obviously playing over there on that left-hand side, Nunes has obviously been playing there. Diaz has obviously been out for quite a long time. How he gets back into the team, the position that he may or may not take up in that team, you know, the importance of his kind of status within the squad. Obviously, he's just coming into the team. So will it be like a Diogo Jota where you kind of get fed into the team, you know, slowly? It could be that kind of situation, which would totally make sense. But at the same time, he was quite an important figure of last season. So he might be looking at the situation and thinking, well, I was quite, you know, vitally important, you know, to the team in a general sense. So, you know, I can't see why, you know, I wouldn't then be, you know, important now. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what happens with Luis Diaz. But, you know, nonetheless, it is good that he will be potentially back. Joel Matip now, looking at him, he could potentially make a move in the summer. Again, he kind of, again, it's a bit like Joe Gomez, to be honest with you. You know, it's, you know, players who have shown glimpses during their time. Matip, probably, in my opinion, more so in a general sense. Obviously, he's been there for quite a while. Signed him on a free from Schalke. Or he left Schalke on a free. We signed him. He's just too injury prone, man. He genuinely is too injury prone. And if Liverpool are trying to battle on all fronts in some way, shape or form next season, we cannot keep having so many injury prone players, man. I mean, that isn't, I guess some of it isn't even down to them. In most cases, it is down to Jurgen Klopp and the staff to be able to fix up, if I'm being totally honest with you, in terms of their training regimes and things like that. You know, it's been quite poor, clearly, because of the amount of injuries that the team is actually picking up. That is definitely something that needs to be looked at as a club. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic that the club have had this amount of injuries. I can't even blame the players anymore. I am looking at the club as a whole. Something is deeply wrong there. So we need to sort that out over the next coming months. But unfortunately, time moves on. Joel's in his 30s. You know, we should be looking at the kind of next set of players. And there isn't really any young players that I'm looking at who could potentially step in. So, you know, we might need to go out there and sign somebody. Speaking of potentially signing someone, looking here, Liverpool may try to do a rebuild over in Italy, looking at Napoli playmaker Lobotka and Lazio star Savic. Two decent players, in my opinion. Do they fit the profile? I would probably say Lobotka maybe more so. Savic is a very good player. I always look at someone like a Savic who's been spoken about for about maybe the last 3 or 4 seasons. And I always think to myself, when top clubs are not really trying to pick you up, when you're not really there with the top clubs, is there something in that? Is it that the top clubs, is there something wrong in your makeup? What is it about you that, you know, of course, obviously it comes down to Lazio, potentially the fee and stuff like that, you know, and I know that will always play a part, but I do look at these kind of things and I do scratch my head at times, especially with players like a Savic, who I do think is a decent player, has been spoken about, like I said, for such a long time, but just hasn't really made that step up, in my opinion. So, you know, is there something there? I don't know. Let's just kind of obviously, you know, wait and see in regards to that. And Lobotka, you know, having a decent season with Napoli. Again, does he fit the profile of a young Klopp player? I guess it remains to be seen. Obviously spoken here obviously about Luis Diaz, and this is in regards to players coming back after the international break. Obviously Luis Diaz, Joe Gomez have recovered. Joe Gomez has obviously recovered from a hamstring issue. He made the bench obviously at the Bernabeu. Thiago is actually Liverpool's only remaining long-term injury concern for the current campaign. I think that's a good thing, if I'm being totally honest with you. I don't even know at this point, because players pick up so many injuries at Liverpool. I never really know what is good, what is bad. You know, let's just be happy if we have some decent quality heading into the Premier League running, you know, for that top 4 race out of all the other competitions. Not going to win the Premier League, so bit of a dud season if I'm being totally honest with you. Can Liverpool end it on a high? That is going to be the question for them. Obviously, looking here at Luis Diaz, speaking of injuries, as I just said about players coming back from injuries, Diaz obviously picked up an injury. He suffered a cut on his ankle against Real Madrid last week, and he's now withdrawn from the Uruguay squad for their upcoming friendlies against Japan and South Korea. Don't know. I mean, it says they're a mild injury. I'm going to hear Klopp talk about it first, because I feel that whatever time frame Klopp puts on it, put an extra like 2-3 weeks. So if Klopp tells you it's 2 weeks, it's a month, technically speaking, because he never seems to know in terms of like timing and stuff like that. But I just always think, I just feel like it's a little bit, it's just weird, you know. Again, he picked up a cut, so you know that again, that's just something that could potentially happen. It's not like a hamstring issue or, you know, muscle or anything like that. It's just generally a cut. But Diaz, not Diaz, Darwin Nunes has picked up a little bit, you know, recently. I'm not saying he's injury prone or anything like that, but he has picked up a little recently. So just watch this space, if anything, if I'm being totally honest, just watch this space. So moving on. Now, this is the news I guess everybody kind of, you know, really wanted to take a look at. Now, take this with a pinch of salt. I don't even know if this is actually potentially true, but news it is. James Milner looks like he might get a contract extension at Liverpool. Look, I don't want to sit here bashing players, pause. I think it's up to Liverpool. Do what you're doing, to be honest with you. When I see things like this, just do what you're doing. Clearly, there's something within that in itself. So if you feel, you know, giving James Milner, you know, a contract is something that, you know, we need to do, then, you know, fair enough. You know, do your thing. You know, I'm not going to say anything against that in that regards. It just gives me more of an indication as to where you're kind of trying to head with this team, where you think this team is at this current moment in time, all of these kind of little things. So, you know, it is what it is with Liverpool. And last but not least, as I kept saying to everybody, now this is obviously posted out by James Pearce. Again, take it with a pinch of salt. Jurgen Klopp looks to hand Tyler Morton a chance to impress during the pre-season, having heard really positive feedback from the midfielder's loan spell with Blackburn Rovers. I already said next season he's going to be a fixture in the side in some way, shape or form. Homegrown player, young player as well. I don't know if he adds to the quota or not, but I just think he will just be in and around the squad. I said it. I've said it so many times, to be honest with you. When it comes to Tyler Morton, he's just someone that Liverpool are making the same steps that they did with Harvey Elliott in regards to him. If Jurgen Klopp has apparently heard really positive feedback, although I don't believe that. I think he's heard what he's he's heard what he wants to hear, to be honest with you, because some of the feedback that I've heard hasn't been so positive. But at the same time, I have heard a few good things about him. I think it's quite mixed when it comes to Tyler Morton. People understand he is a young player. Do they think he's that good? All these kind of various different things. I've heard difference of opinions in regards to Tyler Morton. So, but I just think he's been primed to come back into this Liverpool squad. I don't think Klopp's going to really look at the preseason that much, to be honest, unless he stinks it up completely in preseason and looks completely out of his depth, which I don't think he would. I think he's going to be in that squad. Him, Bajcetic, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones. Don't know about Carvalho, but I think, yeah, those players there, I think that's what Jurgen Klopp wants to do and put them through. Kai Gordon, when he comes back, another player. I think, yeah, these are kind of players that he wants to have, you know, within the kind of first team makeup, so that one, don't necessarily have to spend so much money, because then he'll feel that he's then giving the young players a lot more of an opportunity. But then also he can still keep some of the older players, your Milners, your Matip, all these kind of players, Hendersons. He keeps all of this experience around, thinking that it's going to rub off on all these young players. Listen, man, I'm telling you, just watch this space and come back to me at the end of the summer transfer window. But guys, look, that is the end of the video. LFC Newsroom. I decided to just quickly chop it up, quick 20-minute video for you guys instead of a reel. I might switch back to a reel just depending on whether the news is long enough and stuff like that. But again, we had so much to unpack. I haven't done one for a little while, so I decided to just quickly throw one out there for you guys. As I said at the beginning of the show, and I will say it again at the end, if you haven't already, make sure you smash that like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'm G, LFC Newsroom done and dusted. Bow, I'm out.